Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Career Choice Series webinar, Trial Lawyers, Working Both Sides of the V. The Career Choice Series is designed to help you choose your career path. Whether you're a law student, young lawyer, or transitioning attorney, find out what it's like to work in various practice areas and the best way to position yourself to get there. The Career Choice Series is brought to you today by ABA Legal Career Central, Law Student Division, Young Lawyers Division, and Tort Trial and Insurance Practice Section. The ABA Tort Trial and Insurance Practice Section, known by its acronym TIPS, is the source of knowledge and leadership on trial practice and critical issues of justice that involve tort and insurance law, whose members focus on balance and diversity, bringing together plaintiffs, defense, corporate, and in-house counsel to tackle issues confronting our profession. The Young Lawyers Division is here to help new lawyers navigate the early years of their career and law students prepare for life after law school. The Law Student Division has just introduced premium benefits, which includes a savings of $250 on Barbary Bar Review, $25 off West academic casebooks, and a legal ethics bundle that includes a free Model Rules of Professional Conduct ebook. Upgrade to premium for $25. Sign up today at abaforlawstudents.com/go premium. ABA Legal Career Central is a career center that offers both career development resources and a job board for law students, lawyers, and other legal professionals across all disciplines and career stages. Today's moderator is Kathy Morris. A former criminal defense lawyer, Kathy is a longtime career counselor for lawyers and law students through her company, Under Advisement Limited. She is the founding chair of ABA Legal Career Central Board and remains an advisor to it, as well as a regularly contributing author to the ABA Voice of Experience magazine. Kathy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Emily. Happy to be here today subbing for our moderator of note, Liz Stone, who I like to say is not only an executive search firm expert, but she's also a stand-up comedian. So I'm only a little bit funny, and I know the two panelists we've got today are extremely funny, so we're going to have a good time. And let me introduce them. They're both accomplished and acclaimed trial lawyers. They're both also managers in their law firms, which I think you'll find interesting. Fred McClure, hi Fred, is a partner at DLA Piper, and he works out of the Miami office, and he's also the litigation practice group leader for all of the Florida offices. You know, it tells you here that he concentrates in a number of kinds of litigation. Both of these fellows work on both sides, as they say, of the V. That means they represent plaintiffs and defendants in trials. And Fred is also a past member of his firm's executive and policy committees. Rick Morefield, Rick, hello.
Hello.
Is a founding member of his firm, which is in Overland Park, Kansas. Not only is he the same kind of trial lawyer as Fred, but in his firm, which is smaller, their cases range from multi-million-dollar business disputes to even relatively simple auto accident cases. And so there's this smaller firm takes in a wider range in terms of the kinds of cases, and that's something you can see on both their websites. Rick is the chair-elect of the, as Emily mentioned, the ABA TIPS Section Trial Techniques Committee for the ABA. So we're really lucky to have both of them, and we're going to work hard to get you a lot of quick information today. And let's start this way. I want to ask each of you, Rick, I'm going to ask you to go first, but I want to ask each of you for a very quick, kind of very brief overview of what it means to, and what it means when we say that we're trial lawyers. And I think, tell us in your view if that's different or the same, and how, from being a litigator. So Rick, take it away.
Sure. I think the big difference between a trial lawyer and a litigator is that the trial lawyer actually goes to trial. There are a lot of attorneys out there who settle cases, who push paper. Not that that's a bad thing. Somebody has to do that. And in fact, as a small firm lawyer, I have to push a lot of paper. So as a trial lawyer, you have to be a litigator too, but not all litigators try cases.
Good. Sounds good. Fred, agree, disagree?
I totally agree with Rick. And the only thing I would add to that is that as a trial lawyer, you are a part of a comprehensive strategy of trying to find a business solution to your client's business problems. In other words, when the talking doesn't work, when the mediation doesn't work, they know that they've got somebody who's willing to take it all the way, and that, I believe, is an effective part of trying to find solutions short of the courthouse.
Right, and I think also if your opponents know that you know how to and are more than willing to try a case if need be, it gives a different flavor to the settlement discussions, doesn't
Absolutely.
it? Yeah. All right, well, that's great. Let's keep going by talking about each of your treks toward being a trial lawyer. And what I mean by that is, and Fred, let's have you take first on this one. What was your career path toward becoming the trial lawyer that you are today? Did you know in law school this is what you wanted to be? Did you have other jobs along the way, or have you always been at your firm? Tell us about your path.
Sure. I always knew that I wanted to try cases. However, in law school, I went to law school believing, and sort of for the first year, thought I'd be a prosecutor. And it was only through sort of taking more classes and summer work that I discovered that I really didn't want to do that because I wanted to sleep at night. I wanted to instead do civil practice. And I started out in a small firm. I was the 13th lawyer in that firm. And so I specifically chose to go to a place that would let me get immediate on-my-feet experience, which I tried my first case 5 days after joining the firm. Small case, but nonetheless tried the case. And 10 years later, I switched over to big law, where I've been for the last 20 years. I've been practicing 30 years. And so that's sort of the advice I give to folks. If you know you want to try cases, find a place that's going to let you get on your feet and try cases early, because unlike many other areas of the law, if you're going to be a trial lawyer, there is no substitute for being on your feet.
And we'll talk about some of those kinds of opportunities that let you do that, or how you supplement your day job by trying to do other things to get you into the courtroom. But Rick, I think I want to ask you about your career path toward having your own firm.
Sure. My experience was a little bit like Fred's. I started out in law school knowing I wanted to try cases, but I arrived in law school thinking I wanted to help the little guy, but at the same time I was fascinated by business and banking issues, and so I did well in law school and eventually got seduced by the idea of big law, large law firm practice. And so after I graduated, I went to work for a large firm, Stinson Leonard Street. I was working on business litigation, banking litigation, tort defense, and I was probably the last generation of young lawyers that actually got to try cases there and at other large firms like it. I had the good fortune of second chairing a number of trials and first chairing a couple of smaller cases before I left, but I realized I wanted to try more cases, realized I had more of a heart for the little guy, so I started my own firm in 1993 to do plaintiff's work, and then defense clients followed. So I've continued to do both ever since. And I agree completely with what Fred said, though. I think if you want to be a trial lawyer, you've got to find a place that'll give you experience getting on your feet. And I think big law is a great place to be a trial lawyer. It may not be the best place to learn how to be a trial lawyer unless you're very, very lucky about who your mentors are.
That's interesting. And I think sometimes, even in big law, we want to encourage people that can get a trial through a pro bono case. They could go to, say, NITA, National Institute for Trial Advocacy, intensive seminar. They could clearly, in law school, I think you'd both, encourage people to do as many trial ad cases as they can. Now, I want to ask you both a quick question. You both said that you knew in law school you wanted to try cases. I, in law school, thought I would never be in a courtroom, and I ended up being in a courtroom all the time. So do you kind of think, if people are listening and they're not sure, or they're transaction lawyers now, but they're not sure, that you have to know, early that you want to try cases, or does that kind of signal that you're not cut out for that, or are kind of trial lawyers, made as well as born? What do you think about that? Fred, what do you think about that?
I think you can always make the transition. I have a young lawyer in my office who started out with us as a real estate lawyer a few years back, and when the economy turned and there were not really any opportunities in real estate, she switched to litigation. She's one of the finest, litigation lawyers we have. I think oftentimes in law school, people sort of decide they want to be what they got the best grade in, or they think their personality isn't suited for being a trial lawyer based on what they see on television, only to come to understand that transactional lawyers sometimes are some of the best trial lawyers because they have such a great eye for detail, and vice versa. Sometimes litigators help the transactional lawyers by helping them understand what the words really mean in those contracts and in those transaction documents, because they mean different things different ways. So I think the trial lawyers are made, not born, in a short way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. And just quickly, agree, disagree, Rick?
No, I agree. I think maybe a better test than whether you grew up believing you wanted to be a trial lawyer is whether or not you were competitive or liked to argue. So
5 years old.
To me, I think that's probably the litmus test.
Interesting. All right. So
you think about it, if you spend any time in school being put in timeout or getting comments sent home saying he talks too much, you've got a career ahead of you.
Okay, well, that helps me transition to the next, question here, because how much is, a day in the life of a trial lawyer kind of about arguing? And is there a typical day? There may not be. Is there? Can you take a stab at talking about kind of a day in the life of a trial lawyer? Rick, why don't you keep on with this one first?
Sure. Well, my comment would be it's not like TV. Every day is different. And some days, the bad days, I fly from one little task to the next. It's, responding to emails, updating clients, talking to opposing counsel, pushing some paper around on my desk. Other days, I might be focused on one or two large projects, preparing for or taking a deposition maybe, witness preparation, brief writing. So I'd say, maybe 30% of my time is what you might think a lawyer does if you're just watching TV, questioning, arguing, mediating, negotiating. And if you took negotiating out of the picture, that percentage would probably be a lot lower. But I think most interactions with opposing counsel actually involve negotiating, even if you're not actually trying to broker a deal at the moment. So that's kind of a typical day for me. It's all over the place. There's probably not a typical day.
Okay, Fred, what do you say?
I agree with that, and bear in mind, rarely, and I certainly hope it would never be the case for anybody on this call, are you working on just one case at a time. You will have a bevy of cases that you're working on, and frankly, you're spending a lot of time in the office just thinking. And that's, to me, that's one of the important things about being a trial, being a creative thinker. Not sort of getting into a routine. Every case is different. I don't care how similar it is to, if you're doing insurance defense work, sometimes people believe that they're all the same. They're not all the same. And the really good trial lawyer is the one that can find the nuance and can find a different approach to doing the same thing over and over and over. And that's what and a lot of that is just quality time in your office thinking about new ways of doing the same thing over and over again.
Well, I love that comment, and I think that one of the reasons we became lawyers is to stay kind of caught up in the world of thought, and people have hopes of being able to be creative in a career as a lawyer, and some people then master what they're doing and find it boring. So that's kind of the dread. I love what you guys are saying about the tenor of your work, and that kind of leads us to sort of the pros and the cons of trial lawyering. I think I want to ask each of you first. What do you really enjoy the most about being a trial lawyer? And Rick, Fred, you just mentioned a couple of great things about being able to think and be creative and stuff. But what else? Is there anything else that you really, really enjoy the most?
Yeah, I love creating a theme and developing a strategy and collaborating with the clients on it. I'm fortunate that I work with a lot of in-house counsel, some of whom have never tried cases, some of whom have tried cases. And I love working with them and sort of helping them, them educating me about their business and me sort of helping them think through how we can deal not only with this case, but how this case is going to impact their business going forward and how we work collaboratively to figure out a solution to that. I love that. And I love it when clients give me the freedom and trust me enough to know that I have their company's interest at heart. It ain't about me, it's about them, and that we work together as a team and sort of trying to find the best result for them and for their client, their company.
Awesome, awesome. Rick?
Yeah, similar to Fred, I think being a trial lawyer is being a storyteller. And I think one of the things I love about what I do is you take a set of facts that you didn't get to pick and you have to create a cohesive story that a jury or even opposing counsel or the opposing party will be able to understand. So it's developing themes, it's being creative, it's being able to take a lot of complicated information and making it simple for people, making it memorable for people. And so that's what I love about it. I think as a trial lawyer, you get to be a lifelong learner. It's not something that you just, one day you wake up and you've arrived. You're always learning new techniques, always improving your craft. It's why they call it the practice of law. There's unlimited room for growth.
Right, and you're always learning when you have a case that's, products or PI. You're learning, medical things. You're learning manufacturing matters. Aren't you? You just get a chance to delve into things that, broaden your horizons and make it fun. And so let me ask each of you some of the challenges or detractors about trying cases for a living. Rick, you go first on this one.
Well, I probably have two big pet peeves. One of them is written discovery, especially working through a mountain of documents. Although I'm fortunate at this stage in my career, I can sometimes get other people to do some of that work for me. It's still, if you're going to try a case, you've got to know the facts, and so sometimes that's not that fun. The other thing is, in terms of a pet peeve, is that there are a few, fortunately in my area it's not a lot, but there are a few, dishonest, unethical lawyers that make the practice less enjoyable than it could be. I enjoy the vast majority of opposing counsel that I deal with. I mean, we fight about things. I don't always like them at the moment, but most of them I respect and appreciate. But there are a few abusive people out there that are that just spoil the fun of practicing law from time to time.
Yeah, from time to time, because we all hear, and sometimes as newer lawyers or law students, we're sort of afraid about the incivility. But the truth is, I think what you're saying, which I agree with, most lawyers want to be collaborative and collegial, even if they're opposing counsel. They're not, you're trying your case hard, you're hard on the case, but maybe easy on each other. Some lawyers aren't, but it's not all ugly out there, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And that's good for people to know. So in this vein, when you both talked about, kind of pros and cons and so forth, you've each mentioned, I think, some of the things that we could refer to as top skills needed to become a trial lawyer. And let me just sort of repeat what I heard from you guys that you've already said. You need to be able to kind of appreciate continuing to learn about things. You need to be able to take complex ideas and boil them down. You need to be able to convey them, hopefully humanize or in terms of a story. You need to find nuance, be able to find the nuances. I think those are the main things you all just said. So let's talk about a few more top skills or traits people need to be a trial lawyer. Fred, kick it off.
Yeah. critical listening skills. I mean, you must be able to not just hear, but listen. And part of the corollary to that is being flexible. Unlike in law school and unlike in some practices, you will never confront in the trial room the perfect set of facts, and it will never go just as planned. And so the really good trial lawyer is nimble enough to turn on a dime and still keeps the beat because he or she knows the case extremely well and knows how every change affects that strategy and how to adjust to that. And then the final thing I would add is part of that telling the story, being able to communicate beyond your own experience. Bearing in mind that most of us, by the time we're lawyers, even if we grew up differently as I did, growing up poor, is that we tend to take our middle class existence and impose it upon people sitting in that box whose life experiences may be very different, but nonetheless we have to find a way to communicate our client's story in a way that's beyond our own experience.
I love that. One of the listeners is really on it because they wrote in a question and said, well, what about Fred's challenges or cons? I guess, Fred, I didn't ask you, did I?
No, you did not.
I am sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
What anything on the that kind of side of the ledger you want to add to what we've talked about?
Yeah, I just think now the pressures of the business of law, and that I confront now, and which presents difficulties for me in trying to provide opportunities, training, learning opportunities, real life opportunities for younger lawyers. So I've had to try to be creative in ways to do that. Every now and then I can strike deals with clients that will get them to let me bring in younger lawyers so they get the experience, because I'm concerned that the next generation of great trial lawyers, we're going to have a shortage if we don't find ways to get them meaningfully engaged with great training opportunities.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, I mean, the truth is, while you're all immersed in your cases and matters and trying to find these training opportunities, your job also is to generate business bill hours. The business of the practice of law is something people, if they're going to go into a law firm, have to, be sort of learn how to live with and or hopefully like. But I want to say, if people listening want to think about legal aid, they want to think about government, states attorneys, etc. There are those kinds of places to start, or to, take a leave of absence from your firm and go be seconded maybe. There are all kinds of really ways to be creative to make sure you get some trial experience, because I think you're right, guys. I think people also lose their nerve. That's why I tried to get into court when I was really, sort of close to getting out of law school, is I just wanted to learn fast before I got past the point where I was willing to have that gumption. So let's see. I think it's Rick with the top 3 skills, or some more top skills people need to be a trial lawyer.
Well, I'll jump in on one of the things that Fred mentioned. He talked about being nimble, and I would say 2 key skills for a trial lawyer are resilience and humility. The reason I say that is half the trial lawyers lose every week. And that's not because half the lawyers are bad at what they do. You're often going to win or lose a case because of the facts of your client's case. And like Fred said, you rarely walk into trial with a perfect set of facts. So you've got to have the confidence to tee the case up and make the best arguments for your client, even if the odds don't look that great. But and you've got to have the ability to pick yourself back up if you lose. Because if you try cases, you are going to lose some. If you never lose a case, you're probably not trying very many. And at the same time, when you win, you've got to have the humility to understand that it's not always because you're the brilliant trial lawyer. Sometimes it's because you had a great set of facts, you had a great client, you had a great jury, and so it's a little bit of a hard line to walk between having the confidence to tee it up and the humility to recognize that you're not all that. And then I think the other big skill that I would highlight would be negotiating. I think it's something that some people are born being good at, but it's a skill that you can definitely learn. And I think one of the things that's that people don't pay enough attention to in negotiating is what Fred mentioned: critical listening. To be a good negotiator, you've got to listen probably more than you talk. And I think that's something that at least early in my career, I probably didn't recognize as much as I should have.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first walked into court, I was trying to listen. I couldn't hear. It was like a different language. And it was a lot of strain, stress, and it was trying to, get the hang of speaking in, evidentiary terms. And it's a good challenge to get into that, courtroom and really start to get the hang of it. And so that kind of leads us to what surprises. I take it, to paraphrase this sort of country song, that you would suggest, parents let their babies grow up to be trial lawyers. But what are some surprises that you encountered that people might be, kind of surprised? I mean, do you still get nervous? Was that a surprise? Do you see lawyers who, think they're trial lawyers, they've never tried a case? What surprises have you seen personally or in the profession with regard to trial lawyering?
One of the things you said, and I'll use that one. 30 years out, I still get butterflies and literally my knees shake when I get up to do an opening statement, trying cases now. And I've come to realize that if a lawyer doesn't feel that way when he or she stands up, something's wrong, because that means they may not care. So that's what I'd say, that you never perfect this craft. It is an ever-evolving, continuous learning situation.
Wow, that is great advice, Fred. I mean, people say that Barbra Streisand still gets butterflies, and sometimes you think, yeah, well, she can quit touring then. But one of these skills people need is also being able to speak in public, and that was something that threw me in the beginning, how awkward I felt, doing my job in a courtroom in public. There are people sitting in the rows listening. We all know about the trial buffs that go to here. That threw me a bit when I first started. What about you, Rick? What would you say was a surprise?
I think people would be surprised to know that a lot of really gifted trial lawyers are introverts. And a lot of introverts are gifted at public speaking, but trial lawyers have to enjoy reading, studying, analyzing, thinking, and those are all skill sets that are often found in introverts. So if you've taken the Myers-Briggs test and somebody's told you you're an introvert, you shouldn't assume that you shouldn't be a trial lawyer. Just understand that some aspects of the practice may be a little more stressful, but it's interesting. A lot of preachers, a lot of trial lawyers are actually introverts.
Well, that is such good advice, because it's, again, trial lawyers can be made, not born. It's not necessarily just the stereotype. That's terrific. We have a question here that I really want to ask you in terms of a surprise, in a sense, that you're both working for plaintiffs and defendants. And a question from the audience was, how do you divide your mindset to be able to wear those two hats when you change during one day, as you mentioned, from case to case and whatnot? What would you say? Are there any pithy differences, or is there anything that's challenging about that? Either one of you jump right in, but let us know which one you are, because sometimes I can't even be sure which voice is speaking.
Well, this is Rick, and go
ahead, Rick.
I don't find it difficult at all. I think what I do is I just try to identify with my client and my client's problem. So to me, I'm solving a problem for an individual or a business, and I'm trying to get a result for them. And so whether I am protecting somebody from an exaggerated claim, or whether I am trying to help somebody recover because of the wrongdoing of somebody else, it's a similar process. I mean, yes, there's some procedural differences in what you're doing, but at the end of the day, it's really about identifying with the client for me.
Ditto.
Okay. Yep. Fred?
I said ditto.
Okay. We've got a couple of other really good questions I want to get really sort of in a lightning round here before we conclude. It's sort of a similar question from two different takes. There's a recent grad waiting for the bar results who said that he tried to get trial experience in law school. I don't know if he didn't do a clinic or whatever, or didn't know he wanted to be a trial lawyer, but he said the opportunities were minimal. And so is there anything he can do? He's going to be a new lawyer in the meantime to gain meaningful experience. And here's a lawyer who wants to transition from being a transactional lawyer and try to build skills to prepare themselves to be a trial lawyer. So at any
I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that.
Is
This is
that right?
Fred.
Fred.
Yeah. So I have an immediate experience with this very thing, right? So I'm very fortunate. For the last 6 years, I've taught at the TIPS and Aboda National Trial Academy at the National Judicial College in Reno. This year, we had a recent law school graduate. She had been out of law school 6 months. Also had a 20-year practitioner who had been a transactional lawyer, who now is going to go out on his own and wants to do trial work. And they both attended this trial academy, because it's everything from picking a jury to trying the case, and you actually try the case in front of real jurors from that county. They get jury service credit for doing it in front of 2 sitting circuit court judges. So those opportunities are there. And then opportunities to volunteer pro bono for the local legal services agencies in your communities. That's another way to do it, once you're admitted. But the trial academies are a good way to do it in a safe environment, that meets you where you are in your career and at your experience level.
Love it, love it. All right, we're at our time, but I want to end by very briefly, again, you just mentioned one of the ways through the ABA you guys can help each other. And by the way, someone just asked, could you repeat the name of the trial academy you just mentioned?
Yes, it's the TIPS, TIPS, Aboda, ABOTA, National Trial Academy. It just ended for this year last week. I just got back. It's generally every year. It's either March or April, and it's for 6 days in Reno, Nevada.
Great.
And whoever does, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to get you the information about it.
Right. Both these guys have graciously offered, by the way, listeners, to answer questions after if you want to look them up on their firm websites and get in touch. But so I was just saying that the ABA gives us a chance to help others. But how is the ABA, guys, in closing, how has involvement in the ABA boosted your career? Why do you suggest that people get active and stay that way as you have? Rick?
Well, I got involved as a young lawyer, and it's been a huge benefit to me. I think initially what it did was it put me in contact with people like Fred. We've been friends for over 20 years, and you end up meeting people with different practices, different interests, who can give you advice, counsel, inspiration about being a lawyer. And then as you get older and more experienced, not only are you involved in committees and things like that help you develop as a lawyer, but you also eventually get referrals. And so it's been a good source of business for me. It's not a good reason to get involved. You need to get involved because you want to help the profession. You need to get involved because of what you can give. But if you get involved with that kind of a mindset, then there's also a return on that investment.
Terrific.
I agree with Rick. It's a great way to stay fresh, and frankly, my experience at the Trial Academy reinvigorates me. I mean, 30 years into practicing, I'm getting a little long in the tooth, but when I'm with these younger lawyers who are bright and energetic and looking to be better, it fires me up and gives me a little more juice to go for a few more years.
Yeah, that's all great, and it does, and I mean that seriously. It's a way to kind of get out of the office for a good reason. Take a little travel, maybe take a spouse, maybe it's this work-life balance thing is challenging as a trial lawyer as it is in all walks. But think about the benefits that not only you could get a discount on this or something like that of the ABA, but the community. That's what we're all saying, and we all encourage everyone. So with that, I want to thank you both. Fabulous. And turn this back over to Emily to close it off for us. Thanks all.
Yes, thank you, Kathy and Rick and Fred, for this illuminating discussion on what it's like to be a trial lawyer. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's program. Attendees, please be sure to check out our website at abalcc.org for upcoming free career-related articles and webinars. On the screen now are upcoming Career Choice Series webinars, which is the series we're doing today. And then we also have another series that's more on professional development topics. And next week we have one on interviewing. And also, You can check out our job board at jobs.americanbar.org, and you can connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. And check out our website to meet the ABA LCC board as well. Before leaving, please complete our short survey. Thank you again, and have a great day.